Hey everybody, it's Spear here, and today we have a top 8 deck list. As most of you probably know, over the past couple of weekends, there's been tournaments that have been happening online, unofficially, but officially. They have official prizing, but they're not official sanctioned tournament by Bandai, which is kind of weird. But effectively, these are some of the first tournaments that were able to get the new championship packs, and there are some really juicy cards in there. The benefit being that we were able to play for participation prizing essentially, while top 4 for both tournaments, Friday and Saturday, did get a couple of more packs. Essentially, most of the prizing was kept in participation. For Friday's tournament with Core TCG, if you participate in the first 2 rounds, you get your prizing, and Top Cut on Saturday, if you participated in 3 rounds, you get your prizing of 5 championship packs. So right there, I mean, if you just sign up for these tournaments, you instantly plus. I gotta say, I have a couple of issues with some of the rulings and the format of the tournaments, but at the end of the day, that's a topic for something else. Today, we're going over the deck list that I made top 8 with at Saturday's Top Cut tournament. I participated in Core TCGs as well, and I started off 2-0, but I had a busy Friday, so I had to drop and essentially just leave it at that. However, Saturday we made it. So we'll just jump right into the deck. So we'll start with the leader. Obviously, we're running Invoker Goku. There's no you could play some of the other leaders, but I find this one gives you so much versatility with your multicolor cards, as well as the surge abilities are still so strong that there's no reason to run anything else right now. Plus, he helps pitch extra cards into our drop. That feeds our card draw. It also sets up some of our kill cards, and effectively, there's no other leader I'd rather run instead of him. His ability to look at your opponent's hands and steal effectively anything that isn't a Unison or an SCR is really powerful. It makes sure that, let's say you want to go for an SCR kill turn, you're able to just rip out whatever extra cards are going to stop you. It does suck that you can't rip out Unison cards, but that's fine, that's balance. You know, he came out before Unison cards were a thing, and while I do really wish he could, you're fine without that. Most of the time, however, I do find myself using his second ability, the one where I get to take extra cards from my drop and bring it back to my hand. It's a huge amount of card advantage if you can line it up with, you know, the whole warping extra cards from your drop to then draw a card to then get those cards back. You're really high up in card economy, especially since you want to get as much usage out of a lot of these extra cards as possible. Naturally, to be an Invoker deck, we need Invokers. So we run a 4 of Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta Inspired Technique. Look, he's got Barrier Deflect. So few things deal with him, and decks need to explicitly try and counter him for the most part to effectively stop what he's going to do on turn 3 and forward. Naturally, you know, people know Invoker's a deck. It's no secret now. People do have answers for it. So this was a best of 1 format. So I did decide to include 1 Beerus and Whis Universe 7 Destroyer and Angel in the deck. I'm not going to see it all the time, but you know, if I do see it and I know that it's a deck that probably runs some kind of removal that can deal with my Vegeta, then we'll go ahead and, you know, you sub him in. Worst comes to worst, he's a charge. The deck stars for good charges, you know, because a lot of your extra cards you don't want to pitch away to the charge, so it's kind of tough finding out what things to charge. If it's a matchup that you don't have to worry about, then it's a quick easy charge. You don't have to worry about it. Ultra Instinct Goku Energy Explosion. He's an Invoker technically. While very few times you use him for the fact he's an Invoker, it is relevant because they can deal with your Vegeta and you can still get your catastrophic kill turn by just having this Goku on board. We run 3 of those because effectively we're mostly a burn deck. I like the fact that it's a very low interaction type of deck. I like that when I go for my kill turn, if I have my catastrophic blows and they don't have a way to deal with my board at that time, I'm effectively minimum taking away 3 life, and you know, very easily, depending on how long the game went for, taking 5 all in one blow. Super powerful. If you cycle really smart, especially with Rival Seeker now that Set 10 is out, you can effectively burn even more than that. So it's super powerful. It's nearly uninteractable, and you can start using catastrophic blows with just Rival Seeker on board. So effectively, you don't need to go up the entire chain if you just need to take out 1 or 2 of your opponent's life, and he, you know, for some reason let Rival Seeker hit the board, waiting for the energy explosion. You just go in, burn, game's done. We have 3 Royal Condemnations. We used to run 4, now we run 3. Because of the way Unisons, you don't hit as many cards with it. You carry it more for late game cards and things that'll close out the game. And that's that's what I've been finding tough with this deck going back to Set 10 forward. It's super powerful, and anything that isn't super deflect / Unison oriented, we have a really good time with. It just so happens that there's a lot of cards that's not hitting now. Obuni is a phenomenal card. This doesn't hit. Unisons, obviously this doesn't hit. So we go down to 3. We also go down to 3 Emperor's Death Beam. Death Beam, again, doesn't hit Unison cards. That makes it super rough. Doesn't hit leaders. We go down to 3 as well. But we can cut down on some of these because we have upped our inclusion of some other cards. Specifically, Sleepy Boy Technique. I haven't played much since, essentially, the Las Vegas Regional and TOP. So this is my first tournament actually getting to use this card, and there's a reason why. We include 3 of them in the deck, and it's broken. Especially, he's one of the big reasons you go out and use your second ability on your leader more often than your first, because you want to recycle Sleepy Boy as much as possible. You get to negate an attack, you get to bounce a card, which usually is essentially negate another attack, and you get to draw 2 cards. Very often you see me lining up my play with seeing the top of my deck, knowing a Dimension Magic is coming, so I play Sleepy Boy Technique, draw into my Dimension Magic, and then I'm able to untap the next attack to make sure I have blue-red standing up again for the rest of the turn. Super powerful, especially with the fact that we manipulate what the top of our deck looks like. Easily one of the MVPs of the deck. I have 2 Tyranny's costs in the deck as well. The decks don't need to include Tyranny's cost, but here's the thing. It punishes decks that want to have huge hands. It's good in the mirror because usually you just end up flooding your hand with a ton of cards. And essentially, because there's so much hand destruction in the format, it just makes me feel safe running a couple of them, knowing that I have more ways to refresh. While Sleepy Boy Technique, you know, is almost effectively better in every way, there is something to say about being able to play it on your own turn, draw some cards on your own turn, and having some redundancy in that way. Although I could totally see me cutting, you know, 1 more Tyranny's cost to run the 4th Sleepy Boy. Then when running 2, we're all this together. This is really synergistic because you get to pitch it and get it back, which means with your Unawakened side, you're effectively recycling the same card over and over again, so you're not going down on card economy. Obviously, it board wipes against Vegex is a house against any deck that really establishes like a semi-annoying board of like, you know, 15 to 20Ks. Super good. And if I'm playing against hand destruction, I'm just pitching this the entire game. Pitch, get back. Pitch, get back. So a lot of utility there. I think there's a lot of reasons to keep it, if only for the fact that it's a blue-red extra card that we can keep recycling. Then there's the defensive cards. We have 1 Whis' Coercion. A lot of Invoker decks run 3 of the Negate Roshis. I could see why, right? It's a battle card negate, you can combo. The deck really doesn't have a lot of combo potential. It's a Universe 7, which you can negate with the Roshi and then use your leader to be able to look at your opponent's hand if you didn't have Universe 7 on board. But I do like the fact that Whis' Coercion turns one of my blue energy into a multicolor energy. And on that same token is why we run 3 Beans. Beans, I've always said, is nearly just about the worst card in the deck, because so many times it just feels like it's not the matchup for it, but you just need it. It gives you energy on turns that you might not have it. It gives you an extra 5k on turns that you need to be defensive, because sometimes if we don't hit our tournament power arena, we're having a really tough time. And if anything, that it's an extra card pitch at the beginning of the game. We keep them. I'm never a huge fan of this card, but you know, sometimes you just do what you gotta do. Then we have 3 Topo Righteous Aid. Look, it's you have to run Topo. Vegex is still an insanely powerful deck, whether you run the base core, whether you're running Boo Vegex. There's a decent amount of aggro decks in general, and this says, for the most part, obviously decks can fight through it, but typically, like 90% of the time, this card says, I'm going to get an extra turn. And for Invoker, you know, turn 3 or 4, sometimes that extra turn is just all you need. So we run 3 because most matchups we want to see at least 1. And it does have the double utility that pitches a card. Usually that's bad, it negs you. But let's say on turn 4, I want to set up my SCR and I have 4 multicolor extra cards. I can Topo, buy myself the extra turn, and then pitch the extra card I need to get that off. So effectively it has a double utility that we really want to be smart with how we're setting up our drop area. Then we have our super combos. I run 3 Beerus and 1 Zamasu. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of a relic of previous formats. There were a lot of Reboot Gohan running around when I was going to Vegas. This was to mitigate for that. Realistically, while I did have a use for it once, I think you either go 4 Beerus or you go 2 Beerus and 2 of the Universe 7 Goku that I believe you only need to be at 5 life to use. Those are probably the modifications I'd make to the deck. You need so much multicolor energy that I think I'd rather run the 4 Beeruses, but I can see, depending on the format, why you would want the extra card, as well as a combo that's available on your turn and your opponent's turn. You know, there's not a lot of combo in the deck, and having ones that have more utility and get you more cards is probably the right call. Then we have alternate Wincons, the SCR, hurrah! Unshockingly, Victory Strike is broken, his activate main is broken. Usually this says your opponent skips their next turn, and I did have an opponent who essentially skipped his turn when this came down. Super good card. Victory Strike means that if I see it's a game that I can't punch through you, and you're staying at high life total, Victory Strike will be my way in. A lot of decks don't interact with it, and if you know this is the play you're going with, you use your leader to be able to rip a card out of their hand, and effectively know if you're able to go in or not, and how much you have to combo even for that. Because going in blind means that sometimes you might have to hold back some combo in case they do have some type of way to deal with it. Additionally, we have Son Goku Rival Seeker. This is where I'm saying chaining can be really important, because effectively if you have 5 energy, you can send 2 cards from your warp to your hand and then put them down. So actually one of the plays that I've done a couple of times over the tournament is I played Rival Seeker. Now I have 2 energy open. I actually use those 2 energy to use Catastrophic Blows. Then I pitch Catastrophic Blows into my warp and I get them back in my hand to go out and play Energy Explosion, the 6-drop, restand my energy, and then I have those 2 to play again, play. And then if I have my leader ability, I can get back the Catastrophic Explosion again, and I can play another one, assuming that I have no way to untap additionally. So effectively, I've burned, what, 5 times for 6 damage? It's a lot, and it really is a great way to cycle through your deck. Mind you, you can choose up to 1 card to evolve on top of this card. So if you're just using Rival Seeker to cycle cards from your warp back to your hand, it's a great way to get, you know, a Death Beam, or it's you know, if not a Catastrophic, then a Royal Condemnation back. It's got a lot of that flexibility. And if we do not go the burn route because our opponent is, let's say, the mirror deck or something that deals with us really well, then we have Instinct Surpassed. We run that as a 2 of, and Rival Seeker we run 3. We run 2 of Instinct Surpassed. It's an alternate win con. It's there if we need it. If we know that the matchup is not what calls for it, we just charge it. Or it's an extra 10k combo. It's a really tough beater, especially if you've been setting up your drop to potentially attack an additional 4 times with them. What I like to do is I like to sneak in attacks with my cards. Don't be afraid to attack with your Invoker Vegeta. Some matchups just require it, and you can probably defend with it just fine the following turn, the defending turn. You want to be able to set up your opponent so that this can close if the deck calls for it. Here's the deck list. The only inclusions I forgot to say in this is that obviously we run 4-dimension magic, we run 4 tournament of power. The old decks used to run Whis to be able to search Tournament Power Arena, but the way the format works out now, if you're unable to play Tournament Power Arena turn 1, odds are it's better to just charge a multicolor turn 1 and set yourself up to be defensive the first 3 turns. Sure, you don't get the deck manipulation, you don't get the untap right away, but the way some matchups will work, a turn 2 topo is more important than playing a turn 2 arena and effectively not being able to defend for your opponent's turn. So you have to keep that in mind. With that said, that's the deck list. We went 4-1 on Saturday, losing to the champion of the tournament, who was playing Mono Blue Vegito, and that's what I was saying. The deck struggles a lot with decks that run a lot of deflect and a lot of unison cards. So we have to see what the meta is moving forward. At the end of the day, this is a control deck. And as any control deck, you need to understand what the meta is at and change accordingly. So moving forward, I definitely see myself making a couple of changes. If I make any significant changes to the deck, I'll go ahead and let you guys know, make another deck tech. If you guys like the deck tech, or you want to see anything else I do, RTAP 101s, or any of my vlog stuff, feel free to subscribe. If you thought this was a great video, give it a thumbs up. If you thought the deck was trash, give it a thumbs down. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.